truth that James wants to get across, I believe, is that our words speak to our integrity. The things we say, how we talk, it speaks to our integrity. We probably all heard the phrase, your words should mean something. You hear that a lot. You hear it with old timers a lot. My granddad believed in this, so strongly that your words should mean something. We teach that to our kids. We want that from other people, and most of us, we desire that for ourselves. We want our word to mean something. Not many people want to be known as someone who lies or someone who stretches the truth even. When we say something, people should know that we speak the truth. We should be known for our integrity. And integrity means that it simply means you're honest, you're truthful, you're trustworthy. So what we say and how we respond to what we say speaks to our integrity. If you want to know if someone has integrity, just give them some time and they'll reveal it to you, whether they do or not. If what they say is never upheld, if you can't trust what they say, then they don't have integrity. So James says that we shouldn't have to add any further declarations to what we say in order for people to know that we're speaking the truth. He says, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or with any other oath. Now that's not to say that we can't take an oath of office or something like that. That's a different context. This is to say that when it comes to telling the truth, you shouldn't need anything except a yes or a no. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. I was watching American Pickers. You ever watch that show? Something like that. I think it was American Pickers. Well, he was going to an Amish farm, and he wanted to try and get some items off of this Amish farm. And the guy, who's obviously Amish, the farmer there, he wanted a contract before he came on his land. You know, he wanted to know exactly what he was going to be doing on his land, what this whole business was about and all this stuff. And the American Picker guy, he's like, nobody ever reads our contract. They just sign it at the bottom. He said he read through the whole contract and highlighted some things he didn't like. It's like, you need to change these. And he changed them. And then he gave the Amish guy the contract. And he said, all right, just sign it at the bottom. And he said, no, I don't sign it. He's like, I'm good. And he said, my word's my bond. My yes is my yes. And the guy on the show, he's like, and I believed him. I don't know why I believed him, but his yes was his yes. And he said, I've never signed a contract in my life. I don't need to start right now. And I was like, that's cool. That's the definition of, James is saying, strive for that kind of integrity. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. Your yes is yes. Your no is no. If you have to add anything to it, it could speak to your integrity or your lack thereof. If you have to say, I swear on my mother's grave, you're kind of showing that you're wishy-washy. You know, what do people think when you say yes? What do people think when you say no? If you're a follower of Jesus, in James's opinion, your words should be enough. What do you think about that? What's been your experience with people's word as their bond? Have you had to call into question people's integrity, or have you found most disciples of Christ to be trustworthy? Small class tonight, you're going to have to talk. Amanda's not here, Paul's not here, Jay's not here. I'm trying to think of a better way to word a question.
I can't think of a single time where I'm thinking about a brother or sister in Christ that I feel like I was misled.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
I mean, just, nothing's coming to my mind at all.
Do you?
I would say there are some people that I would not, I think their words are a problem, but just, I feel like I've been cheated by
But they're trustworthy.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Do you find yourself saying additional declarations to add to your promises or to add to your yeses and nos? If so, why do you feel the need to do so? That's a much better question. What do you think? Do you find yourself saying, I promise, I swear, like, what, Chad? Oh, Adam Hall, go ahead. Oh, you do? Why do you think you do that? You've gone back on your word a few times? Huh? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Are you serious? So,
They're still asking about 3 more times.
but is this a for real, or is that because you have a sarcastic nature about you, Adam?
That's the whole reason
Yeah.
about it. But also feel like the person that just walks around and just says yes, no. Like they're like, not to be an Amish guy, but they're a real pile of fun to be around.
Yeah, it's like, yes, take my word for it. It's like, wow, you're a killjoy. Yeah.
But I need to work on it where people can just take my yes and no. That's I need to.
Okay, we'll come back to that. What are you saying, Logan?
I said at the same time, we're also not exactly supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be followers of Christ.
We can't be fun.
We're supposed to devote our lives to Christ, right?
We are, which Christ had a lot of fun, for sure.
Yeah, he flipped some tables and drank some wine.
So I think a lot of us have that sarcastic nature, kind of that laid back, what's the correct word? I don't know, lackadaisical, is that the correct? I don't know. How do you think this teaching applies to that mindset? Do you think it's as strict as maybe Logan's proposing? I don't think you're proposing we just kill all fun, or do you think it's more, what do you think James is trying to get at as a follower of Christ? Go ahead.
I read the whole chapter.
Mm-hmm.
You start back at like talking about the rich, don't be oppressive. You come out. The 2 words that really define it that stick out are above all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's saying, be honest, full of integrity people, and like Kinsey said, especially to your brothers and sisters. Do not be swearing that something's true, it's not lying, basically. I read it as like personal gain to exalt yourself, to improve your position. Be a person of character. Be a person that people can count on. Not necessarily maybe there's what
Okay.
that's how I
Kelly, what do you think?
Yeah, the main thing is, who was it, Paul, that said, lie not one to another? Because that's, Christians or brothers and sisters are not supposed to lie to one another. One source said, sometimes people use the swearing, go to great lengths to do these oaths and things to manipulate and to mislead people. In other words, bringing about a negative consequence besides just the thing. But, we've all seen people that are maybe relapsing into some bad habit or whatever, and it happens over and over, and every time, no, really, this time, I swear I'm not going to do that. I swear I'm not. And then they do. And so I think there's something maybe more here than we would get from our daily lives, but something that was going on then that did attach this to a harm that was happening between these people.
Yeah, there's definitely something he's directly speaking to, Chad and Kim.
I was going to say, kind of along those lines, I 100% think it's a lot about the integrity piece too, but I don't know if James is saying this or if he's alluding, because it's
see how that plays into it. Kim, then Rick.
Mine too was just above all, make sure your word's good because they had a big responsibility as or the first Christians to go out and preach the gospel. How are people going to believe what they're saying if they don't really trust what everything else that they showed in their life? So now we need to do that as well.
Okay, absolutely. Rick?
My experience has been that the bigger the stakes are in business, the more latitude that Christians take with the truth, or being exactly honest and meeting back and forth and being with them to negotiations or just flat out lying. What's dangerous about that is that people take that experience not as you as an individual, but as Christians overall. There's no distinguishing difference between a Christ follower and Neo Joe. Just because I know you're a Christian, you know I'm a Christian, you lied to me
Right.
in that negotiation. The bigger the stakes are, the bigger the tendency is for that latitude. Because you think you're doing it on behalf of the business, therefore it gives you latitude to take that advantage.
Right. So, I mean, James talks so much about our words and the power of our words. And again, you go back and thinking about faith without works is basically like saying you believe something, but then you don't do anything about it. And here he's talking about you say something, but then you don't do anything about it. And so it is about your character, your integrity. It's also about your how dependable you are. And you know, if James is going to have all these things to say about not pursuing your own desires and not pursuing your own benefit over other people, it's the same happens with our words. I'm not going to manipulate you with my words and say I'm going to do something for some self-benefit or something that benefits me quickly, but then I don't follow through on it. Exactly, like be the kind of people that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And when you say you're not going to do it, you don't do it. Your yes is yes and your no is no because your word speaks to your integrity. Mike?
Yeah, that's why I got an example back in business days. I worked for Whirlpool Corporation. We sold our brands to retailers, Lowe's and some others. Not the legal contract of doing business together, but just the business contract. We would have it so detailed out, conditions, because they're talking about two selfish entities coming together to do business. They have their interests, we have our interests, and you're working a program where you're going to provide them support based on what they did for your brands, that sort of thing. And they can be very contentious and take months to solve. Basically over a lack of trust in many cases about what you do your deal. And I reflect back to a day in San Francisco, we had a big account and we just could not come to an agreement on the specifics of this business arrangement. And I finally just said, hey, well, why don't we just do a handshake? I'll trust you, you trust me, and we'll do our best together. It was the best business we ever had. And literally one of the best arrangements that I can remember back on because it was to the point where you felt so bad if you backed off of it. Because now it wasn't on paper, it was your word.
Now it's about you.
Yeah,
And,
it
yeah.
was your word. And so neither one of us want to back off of it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the driving point here is don't be a person or a party that seems like you're going to take advantage of another. Somebody can come to you and they already know you have their best interest in mind. And I don't think it's so much, and I may be wrong because James is pretty pointed here, but I don't think it's so much about the exact words we use. Kind of to your credit, Adam, like Kim can say, are you serious? Are you serious? But it's more about your character and are you a man of your word? Kim may say, are you serious? But she knows she can trust you, right? There's not a lack of trust in that situation.
I think it's bigger than just your word.
Mm-hmm.
It's you representing Christians
Right, and if
interaction with that one person.
and if this letter is being circulated amongst these Jewish Christians who have been dispersed, you know, and who are in these different towns, and they're going to be representing Christ, if you bear the name of Christ, if Jesus is Lord and you're going to proclaim that above Caesar is Lord, I mean, you need to be different than the world. You need to be different than the pagan oaths that were so prominent. And the pagans swear, you know, you swear by this idol or this goddess or this god, saying don't be like that. And that's really what he's getting at. It's just saying, just be people that do what they say they're going to do, Kelly.
I might be misremembering, but didn't Peter swear with an oath?
He does.
He didn't know Jesus?
Yes. A couple times. I wonder how that plays into, I wonder if James has that in mind.
I don't know.
That would be interesting to know, wouldn't it? So look at what he says, because I want to ask you about this. Go ahead, Russ.
I say something, and I catch myself saying this, and I'm thinking, why do I say this? Other people say this too. To be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it's like we question our own integrity, maybe.
I think we mean frankly, and we just say that.
Mhm.
Frankly, I'm being frank here,
Yeah,
but we say, to be honest.
yeah.
Too.
Or I say honestly a lot. Honestly, as if I'm not honest most of the time. I think I even do that when I'm teaching a lot or preaching sometimes. Thanks, James. You're making life hard here. So, anyways, huh?
I recall one time when I was worshiping at a small congregation in Illinois, there was a businessman there who had a business dealing with a man who went to church with us but was not a Christian. I don't know all the details of their business dealings, but I know that they got cross with one another, and I suspect that the man who was the Christian didn't do exactly what he promised he would do.
Yeah.
And I was in the back of the church building, and I was visiting with this man who was a Spanish-speaking fellow, and he said, "Jory, I hate to tell you this in the church building," and he was hard of hearing, so
He's
he's
talking real loud, yeah.
He said, "Jory, I hate to tell you this in the church building, but Cecil is a crook."
Well,
And his notion was that it wasn't so bad that the man misled him, but the fact that he was a Christian
yeah,
and he misled him.
right.
And I think that's an example of how Christians, his yes didn't mean yes.
Yeah, because even in the world's eyes, there's a higher bar there because most people know about Jesus and they expect us to be a follower and try and imitate him. There's a higher bar set there. So James speaks to this, Jerry. He says, my next thing is our integrity speaks to our judgment. And James says, so that you won't fall under judgment. Let your yes be yes and your no be no so that you won't fall under judgment. Well, what would lead us to fall under judgment? Well, what do you think he's talking about there? So your word can lead you to fall under judgment, but what's he talking about here?
I thought it meant because men will assess your character
Yeah.
based on your word.
Yeah, if you lack integrity, you're going to fall under judgment. And if a Christian lacks integrity, like Cecil did, Cecil? Okay, sorry, Cecil, if you're watching. You lacked integrity. That means that you faced judgment there. Not just from God, which I think this could be pointing to that for sure. We will stand before the judgment seat and give an account of every word that we've spoken. But you face judgment from, what's his name, right? I mean, you face judgment from your brother and your sister. Some translations use the word condemned rather than judgment, but the idea here is that there will be a pronouncement, a sentence against us because of our lack of integrity. I don't want people saying, you can't trust Boo. Boo's a crook. I mean, that would be bad if somebody said that about you. And you need to think about judgment here in two ways. So first, in the sense that as those who profess Christ as Lord and King, and that there's a new kingdom come, and that we're operating in this kind of kingdom of the rule and reign of God, and then we live counter to that. So we proclaim that God's goodness is taking over and God's rule and reign is taking over, but then we live countercultural to that, and we pursue our own wealth and our own good standing and whatever benefits us. Then all of a sudden, you are, in a way, blaspheming the name of God that you bear. You're using the name of God in vain. And that's what Moses is talking about in the Ten Commandments, what God was talking about in the Ten Commandments. Not like saying the name of God in vain. That can be that too. But taking the name of God in vain is, I wear the name of God, and then I don't live like he is who he says he is. I don't live like Jesus is Lord. I don't live like I'm a part of this kingdom. So there's that idea behind it. We are responsible for how we live as Christians. This has been James's message for quite some time in this letter, and he's reminding us, encouraging us, and calling us to live lives that have truly been changed and transformed by Jesus. Second, we need to be careful that we aren't pretending to be followers of Christ when we really aren't following Christ, because it shines a bad light on Christ. You know, we can profess to be a disciple of Christ, but really we're just in the crowd. We're not really following Christ. So we're going to pursue our own interests and pursue our own spirit rather than his spirit. James would have us know that faith without works is dead. And so listening to God's word without doing what it says is ultimately unfruitful. And you're lying to yourself if you think that you're following God when you say you are, but then you have no desire to live that way. You have no desire to be a person of integrity. So if God's word calls us to be people of integrity, then we should strive to do so. And if we do not strive to do so, that raises some relationships about what we think about God, and it raises some, relationships. It raises some questions about our relationship with God. So rather than being people who just throw lofty statements out and claim that we believe in him and claim that we're going to do these things, James is calling us, follow through, do them. He's a man of action. He's a man of who believes to push this system of action. So, what do you think about that? Broad question there. I just want to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, Lana.
Well, I think sometimes in our effort to be a person of action, we overcommit. Lisa Turkhurst has a book called Your Best Yes. And she says that if we say yes to everything that comes along, and we never utilize our no because we don't want to be judged, we want to be judged favorably. And so we say yes to everything, and it's not reasonable that we can fulfill all of those yeses. It's just too much. And so at some point, you're going to disappoint. You're going to let
Right.
someone down because you can't fulfill your yes. And so sometimes we have to use our no, and that people don't like to hear no.
It's my favorite word, Lana. I don't know about you, but it has become, the older I get and the more in life things pile up, of course I say that jokingly, but I do say no a lot more than I used to. But if you don't, to your point exactly, people start to see you as shady because you can't fulfill everything you've taken on and everything you've said yes to. I think that definitely plays into this. Kelly?
Reminds me of what Jesus talked about, the young man that said he was gonna go do something
Mm-hmm.
and didn't, and the one that said, no, I'm not gonna do it, but then changed his mind and did. And, when I was growing up, there was a saying that a promising young man, back in that day, a promising young person, never amounts to anything. Because if you're always promising, a lot of the time, you ain't gonna do it. And people are gonna, when they see it, think, well, he says he was gonna do that, but he never did.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, be careful with what you promise.
Yeah, and people will quit asking you. I mean, they'll quit asking you, and then your character, your reputation takes on a whole new light than it had before. Other thoughts about this, Jerry?
There's another issue that I want us to think about, or at least that I think about a lot. Occasionally, we're in situations where somebody will ask us something, and they'll demand a yes or no answer. And we cannot be honest sometimes
Mm-hmm.
by saying yes or no. If somebody asks a simple question, are roses red? Our tendency is to say yes. But some roses are yellow and some are pink
Yeah.
and some are purple. You can't always give a yes or no.
Right.
And occasionally on television, particularly in these Senate hearings, you hear people demand that the candidate answer yes or no to an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can't say yes, and sometimes you can't say no.
Well, they never do.
Well,
Right. Or they
we demand
or they skirt the question. Yeah.
But that's, I don't think that those are instances that James is teaching about. The
Right.
nature of language is ambiguous.
Yes.
And sometimes our answers have to be ambiguous. Sometimes we can't answer yes or no. We'll have to answer, we'll see,
Mm-hmm.
or we'll try,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe.
Right.
But you can't always answer yes or no.
Yeah. As long as you're a person that's honest and open, I will try to do that. I will let you know if I can get to that. You're absolutely right. But don't be a person that's flaky and always saying you will or you won't and all these different things, for sure. Other thoughts? And then we're going to move on to one more thing.
Don't even say I might, and then you generally don't ever get around to doing it, you know, and that's hard, and I'm preaching choir too, you overcommit, but God just get in the habit of saying, no, realistically, I probably will not be able to be there for that.
Yeah.
But thanks for asking.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
It's hard to do, but.
We don't say I might to very many adults. We say we might to our kids all the time. And maybe that's not as good either. If they ask to do something that we don't want to do, it's like, well, we might do that. We'll see. You know, do y'all do that as well? Okay, so that puts our integrity in question. And Ever has started saying like, well, I know what that means. You know, like, I know what we might means. It means we're not going to do it. And I said, well, I'm glad you figured it out, bud. So maybe you're right, Trey. We should quit saying might. We might do that. It should just be like, no.
Kids, I just meant other adults.
Right. I try and build my kids up with a false sense of hope, maybe, and then let them down. No. Yeah, I don't think it's so much about only say yes and only say no. It is about your character and the person that you are. So James says, above all, and I don't know if he means in regards to kind of what he's saying right here. You know, James is all over the map. We've talked about that. He seems to skip around a lot to different topics. He'll be talking about one thing one second, and then ADHD is jumping on something else another second. But there is a cohesive flow here when you think about it all. Some commentators say that James means, above all, listen to these final instructions that I'm giving you in this letter, like the entire end. Like, above all, live out this way. Well, that might be the case, and if it is, James still gives us these words here of this is important. It's almost like let me sum it all up for you. James wants us to hear this. He's been imploring us to live as genuine followers, imploring his readers to live as genuine followers throughout the entire letter. And it's this big idea of let us live as people that truly follow Christ, because that's what we claim. Let us live as new creations by the work of God, and let us hold true to that standard. At least strive to hold true to that standard. So let me give you some challenges here in regard to this teaching. I'd encourage you to evaluate your yeses and your nos. Kind of think about how you talk. Even as I think about and I evaluate my mights to my kids, that might be something that I need to work on. Of not saying we might do this to my kids. I want my kids to believe that I'm trustworthy and to know that my yes means yes, and when dad and mom say no, it means no, and you just got to deal with it. If you're a person that can tell me no, and you can do that comfortably, I'm going to respect you for that. It's not going to put you in a bad light in my eyes, and I hope vice versa it would do the same thing. If you're a person that tells me yes and you follow through immediately, it's really going to speak to your character, your integrity. You said you would do this, and you came through, and it speaks volumes. And what it shows me, and I'm sure what it shows you as well when people do this, is they value you. They're placing you above themselves in that moment. You can trust them. They're a part of something much bigger than themselves. They're not self-consumed. Their mind isn't focused on them. Their mind is focused on you and how they can serve you and what they can do for you in a bigger kingdom than just their kingdom. And then fight for integrity. Whatever you have to do, be a person of integrity. Perhaps you need to correct some things you've said in the past. Perhaps you need to call somebody up and been like, hey, somebody you really let down, you made a lot of promises and you didn't follow through. It would carry a lot of weight to show them like you truly are striving to follow Christ. Perhaps you need to be honest about something that you've been withholding from someone. It may be very difficult for you to do this, but it's worth doing in order to have that integrity. So evaluate your yeses and your nos and fight for integrity. Anybody got anything you want to add to that in regard to the whole lesson? Because I'm done.
One thing that keeps just kind of tickling my brain is when he says above all, and then he says you will fall under a judgment. It wasn't that long ago that Ananias and Sapphira fell down
Yeah.
based on their word.
Yeah, I didn't even think about them.
So,
Right.
I mean, that time frame's not that, and so that was a big deal, that honesty.
Yeah, absolutely. And James might have that in mind. I don't know. I don't know if he was present for that. I don't know what his experiences have been with the church and with Jesus and the things he's seen Jesus do. He knows this God that he's speaking about, and he knows how serious it is to take the name of God in vain and say one thing, but then live a completely different way as if God doesn't exist. This is not about keeping the law perfectly. We know that, right? This is not about your merit is based on how you perform. This is about claiming that God is God, Jesus is Lord, and then absolutely not being the kind of person that he's called you to be. What else?
I don't think the yes and no thing's ever been a huge struggle for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think my delivery is a struggle for me.
How so, Brandon?
Like, I don't have a problem saying, like, being a truth teller. But I think I do have, where I don't know how the part I struggle with is just how it comes across. Like, because I'm sometimes direct.
So it's not your integrity in question, it's your politeness and your, yeah. Like, wow, Brandon's a jerk, you know? Yeah. I've never thought that, I'm just saying, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I work in a high school setting, and so with kids, and everybody knows this, it has, like, the more wiggle room you give them, the more they're gonna bother you. So I've always been pretty good. Yes, you can do this, no, you can't do this. And I don't really elaborate on either side of it. And so,
You're not giving them mites, no.
no. And so I think, but it's been a like problem, stroke, whatever you want to call it, even at home with my wife, who I probably should show more empathy and do that. And it's just, it's a switch that sometimes it's
Yeah.
hard to turn on.
Yeah. Understandably. Brandon is repenting before us, Molly. He's admitting his faults and changing his ways. Any other thoughts?
You got any advice on delivery?
Well, I don't. Some older, wiser men that have been married longer than me might have some advice on that. I tend to be blunt and, a little harsh at times. Other thoughts on this whole teaching?
If it's to protect someone, is it okay for your yes to be a no or your no to be a yes?
You'd have to ask James. I don't have his number, but who am I, Logan, to say the answer to that? I don't think it's okay to lie. I don't think it's ever okay to lie.
Just to protect someone's life?
To protect their life?
Yeah, like not just protecting them from like the law or something. Like if someone's actively like hunting them, say.
What is going on in your life, man? So yeah, big hypothetical here. I don't. It's hard to entertain hypotheticals. I couldn't say. I don't know. I'm sure everybody in here has a differing opinion on whether that's okay or not. Mine would be.
What was the question?
Is it okay if somebody's life is being threatened? Is it okay to lie to save their life? Let your say no when it should be a yes.
I think it's okay to murder to save somebody's life. It's not murder, but it's kill, so I think that would pale in comparison to that.
So don't say anything, just shoot the person that's threatening your loved one. Yeah. Yeah. Or whatever weapon you have. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Lana.
The only thing that stands out to me is I keep going back to chapter 4 in verse 15. He says you ought to say if it's the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. And so sometimes I think about before I say yes to something, maybe it's not the Lord's will. Maybe this is something I need to pray about first and decide if it's the right thing to do before I say yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just, when I automatically say, yes, I'll do this or that, I might not be really capable of it, or it might not be the Lord's will for me to do that.
Right. Yeah, I love that, Lana, and I think that's important. It's another time where he's talking about our speech and the ways we act. And are you living in submission to God and his kingdom, or are you just kind of doing whatever you want willy-nilly without him in mind? And your speech and you making promises would be a reflection on whether you're living under his rule and reign or not. And to your point, I think you can say to somebody, I might be able to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. Or even if you say yes, and then it turns out you can't do it, have the honesty and the integrity to let them know, I wanted to do this, but I'm very sorry, I will not be able to do that. Being a person that's just very upfront, and you're not trying to deceive anyone, you're not trying to take advantage of anyone, and you're not trying to throw up your image. I think a lot of times we're afraid to say no because we want people to have a good perception of us. When I think James would push, be confident in God's perception of you. Don't worry about everybody else's perception of they can do it all, because nobody can do it all. Value integrity over this whatever it is that pursuit is. Yeah, Taylor. Hates it when what?
When I tell Brad, no, you can't go to
Got you, yeah.
golf.
It's not Brad saying no, it's Taylor saying no, yeah, yeah.
I'm teasing.
And I know that one, Brett.
Yeah, he's like, Brad will always say yes.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's another thing. If a man says no, the wife gets blamed every time. Sometimes it's really the husband.
Yeah.
Blame the wife. But really, because I feel like that's why it's hard for us to say no, is because then people are disappointed. He's like, you gotta understand that there's good reasons. Just respect that, make it easier for people, I guess.
Yes, I love that. It definitely has to do with our relationship with our brothers and sisters too, and how we take their no's. But don't get to be a person that says no so frequently and so joyfully that you forget to say yes sometimes. James is pulling us to be people that want to serve, just like Jesus didn't come to be served, but to serve, to be yes people, and to be people that you can rely upon. Any other thoughts? Closing thoughts?
I like the way you said fight for integrity,
Mm-hmm.
because it really is a fight.
It is.
It often includes admitting when you fell short, as part of the integrity part. But I found that, if you are perceived to be one of integrity and character, it buys you a lot of grace when you do fall short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a fight, and it's hard a lot of times, especially when you're busy and different things. I told a guy I would call him today, and I didn't get a chance to do that because I was at home cleaning up puke all day. And so I sent him a message, and I said, I'm so sorry. I meant to call you, and I said I would, but I couldn't. Call me so then I put it on him. I'm like, just call me tomorrow, because I'm probably not going to call you again. We'll see, but I will call him. But yeah, it's a fight to keep that integrity up, for sure. Anything else? All right. Your thoughts are great. They're better than mine. Thanks for being here. We love you. Bye.